Hi guys, welcome back to Data Every Day. Today we're looking at a dataset of PS4 games and trying to predict the rating of a given game based on some features. So it looks like this data was taken from the True Trophies website, which I think tracks in-game progress in some way. So we have a True Trophies rating here, and then some leaderboard information, and then some other information about like playtime within the game. The URL column we're not going to use, but we're going to use all these features to try to predict the rating, which goes on a scale from 0 to 5. So it will be a regression task, so let's hop into the notebook. Going to use NumPy and pandas for working with the data. For pre-processing, we're using the train test split function and standard scalar from sklearn. And we're going to use a whole bunch of different regression models. 3 types of linear regression, two of them with regularization, one without, k-nearest neighbors algorithm, neural network, decision tree, and then the rest are ensemble methods. I believe they're all tree-based ensemble methods. We have random forest, gradient boosting, XGBoost, light GBM, and cat boost. Let's go ahead and import all of that and load in the data using pandas.readcsv. So we're going to grab the CSV file over here, copy the file path, I'll paste it in, and we can take a look. So here's what we saw on the other page. Get a little more information with data.info. And you can see we have no missing values from looking at that. So let's start pre-processing. I'm going to make a function called preprocess inputs. This is going to take in a data frame, make a copy of the data frame, and then right now all it will do is return that data frame, and we'll store the processed version of the data in X, passing data into our function to get it. So this is the copy we're going to modify. So let's start off by dropping the columns we don't need, which are these two and URL. So the reason these two we don't need, obviously the first one you can see is just a duplicate index column, so that's not needed. The game game title we don't need because each one of these is unique. So technically there is some information here we might be able to use if we treated this as a natural language processing task. We might be able to extract the words and use the words as features. But for simplicity's sake, we're not going to do that today. We're just going to drop this column. And we'll also drop URL because, again, they're all unique. If we wanted to be very creative, we could actually maybe make some sort of API request to the URL or try to scrape some data off the page that we get in this URL to get some more feature data. So whenever you see a URL, it's not completely useless. You can actually use it to get some more information if the site that it links to has more information on it. But we're not going to do that for our purposes, so let's go ahead and drop unused columns. So that would be the first one, which is just called unnamed 0. Second one, which is game, and then the URL column. We're dropping from axis 1, which is the column axis. So this is what we're left with. It's a decent number of features. We have 1,500 rows, so 7 features is okay. So we're trying to predict the rating based on the other features. So there's actually no more pre-processing we really need to do. Right, all we have to do is now split the data set and then scale it. So let's go ahead and split df into x and y. So y is going to be the rating column. That's what we're trying to predict. And x is what we're using to try to predict y. So that'll be the feature data. And that's just everything except the rating column. So I'm dropping rating from axis 1, and we get x and y that way. So if we go ahead and return x and y now, get them back over here, the x should no longer have the rating column. That should have been split off into y. So there it is. Now we'll do our horizontal split, or train test split. So we're going to send some portion of the data to the train set to use for training the models, and the other portion we'll use for testing or evaluating the models. So we'll get 4 sets of data: xtrain, xtest, ytrain, and ytest. And we'll use the train test split function from sklearn to do this. So we just pass in x and y, specify a train size. Why don't we send 70% of the data to the train set? Shuffle equals true. This is on by default, but it will shuffle the data before we make the split. And then we'll include a random state so we can reproduce the results. And let's return these 4 sets of data instead of just x and y. Get them back over here. And let's take a look at x train. The only difference here should be that we will have 70% of the original data. You can see it's gone down to 1100. Y train should also be the same, 70%. Yeah, and you can see that the indices match up. Alright, so now we'll do the scaling. So right now all the columns in our X take on different ranges of values, and this can degrade the performance of many models. I'll point out, not tree-based models. Tree-based models are not affected by scaling, but all of these ones are. I would say especially neural networks. They really like scaled data. So we want to make sure that all of the columns have the same range of values. There's multiple ways to accomplish this. We're going to do it using a standard scalar. And we're going to fit that scalar to the train set. So we don't fit to the test set because you sort of want to pretend that you don't have access to the test set when you're doing the pre-processing. So we'll transform the train set using that fit, and we'll also transform the test set using that fit. Like so. However, scalar.transform actually returns a NumPy array, so this will work, but you'll see we can't see it as a nice data frame anymore. So let's turn these back into data frames. And we'll just keep the indices the same as they were before, and also the column names the same as they were before. I'll just change these to xtest. Alright, and that should do it. There we go. So you can see it's scaled. If we look at xtrain.describe, the standard scalar works by shifting and scaling each column so that it guarantees every column has a mean of 0 and a variance of 1. And you can see the means are all extremely close to 0. The standard deviations are all extremely close to 1. So that's ready to feed into our many models. Let's go ahead and start training. Alright, so for the sake of time, I will just copy this dictionary that maps the name of a given model to the instance of that model. And this is nice because then we can iterate through for every name and model in models.items. Print out. Well, actually, no, we'll fit the model.fit on xtrain, ytrain, and then we'll print out a message that just says the model was trained. So then we can fit each model in a for loop. The items function, if you don't know, returns the key value pairs of a dictionary as tuples so that you can iterate through 2 at a time like that. Alright, let's get the results. So there's 2 metrics to use mainly in a regression task to try to evaluate the performance of the model. One does it by comparing, well, let me just write them out. That would be the RMSE, or root mean squared error, and the R-squared score. So RMSE is just the loss, the error. Basically, it's the average error across all training examples. All test examples, if you're using it as an evaluation technique. The reason that it is root mean squared error, why don't we calculate it? We can calculate it by taking, well, first we'll need some predictions. So let's get some predictions. That would come from model.predict on xtest. So we can't, technically we could use the model that was last fit. Do this, why don't we do that? So this is with the cat boost model. We'll make some predictions. ypred. Here are our predicted values. If we take ytest minus ypred, these are our errors. So for each example we have an error, and you'll see that some are negative, some are positive. So to counteract we don't want, when we take the sum, we have to take the average to see our average error. That involves taking the sum, and if we took the sum right now, the negatives would cancel out the positives. So what we do is square it to put it all on the positive scale. And once we have squared it element-wise like that, then we take the mean. And this is our average squared error, or mean squared error. Then we take the square root of that to bring it back down into the units of our original target variable. So you can see this is a really, really big, oh sorry, actually really tiny, I didn't see the decimal. This is quite a good root mean squared error. So when we square it, it would go up to squared rating. So our unit here is rating, right? And on a scale from 0 to 5. When we square the errors, we're getting it in terms of in the unit of squared rating. So we square root it to bring it back down into the unit of rating. And so you can see we're about 0.64 points off on each prediction on average. So that's pretty good. I mean, on a scale of 0 to 5, being 0.6 points off, that's not too bad. That's an okay fit. And the nice thing about an RMSE value is you get to sort of understand how the model is doing in terms of the actual context of the task, because you can gauge for yourself whether or not 0.6 points is good or bad, right? It depends on what you're trying to do. If you were trying to predict something with a high degree of precision or accuracy, then you would, you'd want to use RMSE to try to figure out, is this an acceptable level of error? The other way we can evaluate the error is, I don't know if it's nearly as useful, but it's widely used, called the R-squared score, which basically compares the model you created to the baseline model. So we would take the baseline model is what model will we use if we didn't have any input data available to us. If we just had y-test, well, the most natural thing to do would be to use the mean. So we'll just guess the mean for every example. If we calculate the errors using this, so if our prediction is always the mean, then we get these errors. We then square these like we did before. And then instead of taking the mean, we'll take the sum. This is the sum of squared errors for the baseline model. Why don't we go ahead and do the same thing for our model? So just change ytest.mean to ypred. So this is the sum of squared errors for our model. This is the sum of squared errors for the baseline model. So what the R-squared does is it compares these two values by creating a fraction with our errors on top and the baseline errors on the bottom. So it puts them in a fraction like this. Oh, actually, I did this incorrectly. Here, look. We should not be squaring the sum. We should be squaring first and then taking the sum. So I put the parenthesis in the wrong place. Actually, I should have an extra one here. So you see, we want to take the squared errors and then sum the squared errors. Same here, we take the squared errors and sum them. So we get different values. That's much more realistic. Okay. So what we do is then compare them in a fraction like this. So in this fraction, if our errors are 0, the whole thing goes to 0. If our errors are really big, meaning bigger than the baseline model's errors, the whole thing goes to positive infinity. So that is a nice way to compare them, but it makes a little more sense to do 1 minus this value, because then if our errors are 0, this whole thing goes to 0, and 1 minus 0 becomes 1. So the maximum value we can get is 1 when we have 0 error. So you can think of that as like 100%. And then on the other hand, if we have a really high error, much bigger than the baseline model's error, this whole thing goes to positive infinity, and 1 minus positive infinity becomes negative infinity. So the R-squared score takes on a range from negative infinity to 1, which is a nice way to gauge how much better is your model than the baseline. So let's call this R2, and see what that is. So that's impossible. We must have done something wrong. It can't be greater than 1. Let's see. Let me just recalculate it. We take our errors, square them, and then sum that. Oh, I think order of operations here, right? Okay. And then do the same thing here. We put this over a fraction. Take these errors, square those, and then take the sum. And then close this whole thing in parentheses and put a 1 at the beginning. Alright, that's much better. Okay, there we go. That's the R-squared score. We can actually double check that it is with model.score on the test set, and you can see that the same thing. So this is saying we have a 55.9% reduction in the sum of squared errors between our model and the baseline model. So we are doing better than just predicting the mean. Alright, let's now put this in on the loop and compare the models. So what I'll do is for name and model in models.items, we'll create the predictions. I can just copy this. We'll just create the predictions, call it ypred for a given model on the test set, and then calculate the RMSE, which we get from here. Then we'll print out the name of the model followed by RMSE and display it to 4 decimal places, formatting that with RMSE. Alright, and we can see the RMSE for each model. So we want a really low value here, and it's looking like the lowest value we have would be gradient boosting, the 0.62. So that means we're about 0.62 rating points off each prediction on average, which is fairly good. And in the worst case here, we're getting a 0.96, which means we're close to 1 point off, and that's not so good. 0.6 isn't great either, but 0.9, that's much worse. So then we will iterate through again. Let's do the same thing, except instead I'll get the r² value, which we can get from this thing, right? So r² equals this whole thing that we calculated, and then print out the name of the model followed by r², and we'll display it to 5. Should we do 5? Yeah, let's do 5. 5 decimal places. Format that with R2. Alright, here we can see. So these should go hand in hand. When we have, as the RMSE goes down, the r² should go up. That's because we're still using the same sort of squared error term in here. So the lowest one here, which was 0.62 for gradient boosting, has the highest r² of 0.58, and the highest error, which was 0.96 on the lasso regression or L1 regularization regression, comes out to be a negative 0.00069 r². So this is negative. That means that this model is actually doing worse than the baseline model, whereas all the rest are doing better. Alright, and that will sum up today's video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more content, and leave any comments you have in the section below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day.